In this lesson, we're going to look at creating predicate methods. A predicate method returns a Boolean value, either true or false, based on a condition. We're going to look at two possible predicate methods in this lesson, checking to see if a number is even and checking to see if a letter is a vowel. Those are typical of the types of situations where you want to write a predicate method. Let's start out with checking to see if a number is even or odd. So we're going to write this method. We're going to call it isEven. We always start predicate methods with a prefix like is or has. That kind of lets you know what the method is supposed to do. So we'll write static Boolean because these methods return true or false. And then we're going to write isEven. And then we'll do this on integers, although we could do it on any data type. And then int number will be our parameter. All we have to do to determine if a number is even is take that number modulus 2, and if the result is 0, then the number is even, because that means 2 divided evenly into the number. So we're going to say if number modulus 2 equals 0, return true, else return false. And that's all we have to do. Predicate methods are always fairly easy to write once you understand the process involved, in that there's usually just a simple or not so simple test, such as number mod 2 equals 0, and then you either return true or you return false, and that's usually all you have to do to check. So let's write a little program to test this method. We'll prompt the user to enter a number, so let's create a scanner object. Then we need a variable for the number, num. Then we'll prompt the user, enter a number, and then we'll say if isEven num, system out print line num is even, else system out print line num is odd. And that should be all we have to do to test. Let's compile the program and run it to see what we get. Java C, chap 10, part 4.java. I forgot to prompt the user to enter the number. Num equals input.nextInt. Java, chap 10, part 4. Enter a number. Let's test an even number first. 22 is even. Let's run it again. Let's test it with an odd number. 113 is odd. And I think we'll let the testing go at that. I feel pretty confident that it works. So, predicate methods are easy to write. They're returning true or false values. They always begin with a little prefix that indicates that we're checking to see for some condition. isEven, has value, has contents, is odd. We could have written it for odd if that's what we were really looking for. Let's try one more example. Another thing we might want to do is we might want to look for vowels in a string for whatever reason. So to do that, we need a predicate method that tests to see if a letter is a vowel. So we're going to write static, I'll just keep the other code up here, Boolean is vowel on some char C. And again, it's just an if statement. If C equals A, or C equals E, or C equals I, or C equals O, or C equals U, return true, else return false, and close the body. So we simply get a character, then test it to see if it's A, E, I, O, or U, return true if it is, and return false if it's not. So let's write a program to test that. We'll need a string, a sentence of some type, and then we'll prompt the user to enter the sentence. So we need a scanner object. Now we'll prompt the user, system out print, enter a string or sentence, doesn't matter which one we use. Then we'll write sentence is equal to input.nextLine. Then we'll write a for loop that travels from the beginning of the sentence to the end of the sentence, testing each character using the charat method, and then passing it to isVal to tell us if that letter is a vowel or not. So we'll say for int r, we'll do pause. For int pause equals 0, pause less than sentence dot length plus plus pause. If isVal sentence charat pause for that character. Let's have it printed out. System out print sentence charat pause. And that's all we'll have the program do. So let's save it. Bring our DOS screen up, clear the screen, compile again, there it is. Oops, and I left out Oh, I see I have one too few parentheses. So that one closes the pause. Yeah, okay. If I were using a fancier text editor than Notepad, I could have parentheses balancing. But again, I like to try to keep things as simple as possible and not to make things harder by adding in the details of using some fancy programming editor. So now we're ready to try it. In our string, now is the time, and there are the vowels, the O in now, the I in is, the E in the, and the I and the E in time. This particular method simply takes a character out of a string. Well, actually it could be out of anything. The method doesn't know where the character is coming from, of course. It just gets a character, that's the parameter, looks to see if it's A, E, I, O, or U, returns true if it is, returns false otherwise. My program simply started at the beginning of a string, through the end of the string, and checked each character to see if it was a vowel or not, and returned the character if it was indeed a vowel. So that's how you write predicate methods. They're not really all that complicated, but they do kind of differentiate from other types of methods. Like we have methods to convert temperatures. These predicate methods simply return a true or false value based on some condition that you're testing for. But they're quite useful and can make your programs much more easy to read and easier to maintain. So let's move on now to the next lesson, where we're going to talk about another type of method, the void method, where we don't return data, but we simply perform some type of task within the method definition.